Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Secrets of Flow. I'm Alexei Zhaglov, speaking live and unscripted from my place in Toronto, Canada. I do this weekly, just speaking from my mind, about half an hour to an hour every week. I took a 3-week break for holidays because, well, most people are away and are usually not interested in the main topic of what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here, this show, Secrets of Flow, is your weekly time and place, 12 o'clock Eastern Time, right at lunch hour, every Tuesday. This is your time and place for insights and practical advice on improving the world of work. And in particular, I mean the kind of high technology work, maybe IT departments in large companies, maybe product companies, complex professional services. The work product is just mostly thoughts, knowledge, information. It's naturally invisible, highly variable, difficult to see how it's progressing, difficult to manage. Yet, of course, there's great improvement potential, and you can find insights right here, how to do it better and succeed. So happy New Year 2025 to everyone once again. Thank you very much for continuing to watch, tuning in every week, and also watching these videos after, because not everyone can make it at the same hour. Thank you for all the likes here on YouTube or whenever I post announcements on social media. Thank you very much for telling your colleagues as some new people appear on this on these videos. And today I want to make it a relatively short show, not the full hour or 55 minutes as I like to do it, to give you a buffer before whatever you have to do in the next hour. So maybe another half-length episode, and I just want to focus on something relatively simple and to the point. Some resolutions, some keys to success in 2025 and beyond that you could apply to yourself, to your company, to your business or your career perhaps. And there is also a bit of interesting news in the professional communities dedicated to such improvement of work, that of course I'm gonna need to maybe spend a few minutes talking about, so maybe this will turn into a bit more than half-hour episode. So let's begin. New Year's resolutions, keys to success in 2025 and beyond. Actually, hopefully not beyond. Hopefully this creates something positive for you in 2021. 2025 already, and then continues to bring you some success, let's say in 2026 and beyond. This is what I mean by beyond. You don't have to wait more than a year for results. And the first idea, the first of these keys to success that I'd like to talk about, this is a resolution you can make at your company, is let's be mindful of our inventory and control our work in progress. This is number one. And let me expand a little bit what I mean by this and what I don't mean by this. I'd like to take a very broad view of what we do, let's say, as a company. And let's say maybe you are running a company or you are a manager accountable for some portfolio or product or project or professional service. I'm talking about everything between we promise and here it is. everything that starts from some making perhaps very informal promise to a customer, or creating some kind of expectation that the customer is already waiting or believing that we will deliver this thing to them. From that relatively early point in the process of whatever a company does. And from that point all the way to delivering that to the customer. So this is a pretty broad span of process activities, information and knowledge discovery, collaboration, and so on and so forth. And everything that's between these two endpoints is a very important leading indicator. Ultimately, all your customers care about time. When will it be done? When will it be delivered? How long will it take? Will it be delivered done by that date? And if the total inventory of everything between these two endpoints, we promise and here it is out of control, if you don't even know how much it is, if it's growing, trending up, then it will become increasingly difficult to satisfy important customer criteria with respect to time, whether it's duration or timeliness or predictability of time, hitting a particular important deadline, and so on and so forth. So please be aware of this. Let's resolve to be aware of this in all our companies, so that we can do a better job for our customers more sustainably. I want to say also a few words what I don't mean by this, and this is more important kind of the higher you go on the organizational ladder. So some people who, let's say, work at your company at relatively junior or as sometimes called individual contributor positions, may be using a relatively simple personal effectiveness device known as personal Kanban. It's already doing done, and let's pick a work in process limit for the doing part. Let's say 3. Like this is a multitasking limit, and it's a pretty effective personal effectiveness device. It helps people focus, it helps them get through their day, it helps them just concentrate on relatively few tasks at hand and not worry about something else that's perhaps coming up later today, tomorrow, next week, next quarter, and so on. And what's really important to understand about this, people are solving the problem of their personal effectiveness using personal Kanban. What they're not solving, and what they're not even looking at, is when does your business make promises to customers? And that sometimes means very implicit promises. And how large is that inventory of everything that's promised and not yet delivered? It's a kind of a problem that's above my pay grade as one of these effective individual contributors might say. Right? How well is the business delivering to customers? That's kind of a higher order problem. However, if you are at the higher level at the organization already, such as you're one of those accountable managers or perhaps leading executives, then this problem isn't above your pay grade. It's exactly at your pay grade, right? And so then you can't really solve the problem of that level by applying some simplistic device that's designed and is very effective, but at a lower level. So now you actually have to be very mindful of when exactly you increment the inventory of your commitments by promising something to customers, decide to start some project, or perhaps you even make some implicit promises in your business. That can happen too. And when you decrement that inventory by delivering, by getting it done, delivering it to the customer, and sometimes it happens too, preferably in relatively small number of cases, dropping existing commitments for a good reason, perhaps. So that's it about this particular key to success, inventory, WIP controls, so that we can deliver better and more sustainably to our customers. So before I continue with my second important point, I just want to again thank everyone who is watching live right now, joining this. Please do post in the chat, in comments if you like, where you're watching from. If you have any of your own New Year resolutions for your company, your business, feel free to share them as well. Like, for example, Colin from Austin, Texas just said hello in the chat. Thank you very much, Colin. And now let's talk about the second key to success in 2025. Know your customers. What I mean by this, in the new calendar year, your company, your boss may have given you some objectives, and a very popular term for that right now is OKRs, objectives and key results. And you may have some objectives for the new year, such as to increase your revenue as a company, to increase the number of customers, to let's say reduce customer churn, and maybe increase revenue per customer, and so on and so forth. And usually the key results attached to such objectives are, let's say, revenue increased by 20%, churn reduced to, let's say, 5% of the customer base, and so on and so forth. The revenue per customer increased 10%, etc. And here's kind of the approach I would like to propose and kind of make it a resolution for your company in 2025. And yes, I'm leaning on the book that fit for purpose and fit for purpose framework. That I'm holding one of the editions of this book that I co-wrote 7 years ago. Let's just think about it from a customer's perspective. The customer's an individual customer, one of the customers that you have at your company. They don't really know about your objectives. They don't really know about your customer acquisition or churn or revenue per subscriber or any of that. They have their own purpose. They mind their own business. And you cannot create, if let's say your objective is to have 20% more customers, you can't create, actually, if you could create these new customers out of some kind of clay, then it would be a lot simpler problem, right? But customers aren't created like this. They choose to become customers. They choose to buy your product. They choose you over your competitors. And sometimes they choose otherwise. And sometimes they choose to buy some other kind of product entirely. But the important thing is they have an independent will, right? So you cannot really dictate them what to do, how to choose. They choose independently, and they choose by their own criteria, by certain qualities that your product has. Some functionality, some perhaps non-functional qualities, reliability, and so on and so forth. Sometimes they choose by how well your product's price matches some combination of qualities. Sometimes they choose because you can deliver very timely and predictably. There could be a lot of other criteria. And when you're looking at objectives and key results that are tied directly to, let's say, business performance, and those are very popular, let's resolve to address those by really knowing how our customers choose. And even though they often choose irrationally, let's resolve to have a system in our company for understanding how customers choose. Yes, and fit for purpose framework is a good candidate for such a system, but of course feel free to devise your own. The important point is really knowing your customers and how they choose. All right, at the high level of the company, such as let's say you're leader of the business, you are, let's say, vice president of some product development program, maybe manager of some portfolio, and so on and so forth. At this level, you know your market segmentation. Your market isn't just all the same. There are different segments in it, different kinds of customers. Each of them perhaps buy your product for a different reason. Each segment has different criteria, and you have some strategy of how you plan to succeed in the segments that you've chosen by serving them to a certain level of excellence in quality and customer experience. So that's the approach we should take to, let's say, achieving goals such as increasing customer acquisition or reducing churn and growing our customer base and revenue, by knowing how customers choose, so that we give them something that makes them choose us. At levels maybe a bit below, if let's say you are a manager of a product line or a project or some kind of professional services in your company, very often the work comes from multiple directions. So you may actually be managing, let's say, what we often call a shared service that has multiple internal teams as your customers. All your customers may be within the company, but understanding who these customers are, developing a productive work relationship with each of them, anticipating when demand for your service will come in, when and how often they will ask you for help based on your expertise. Let's resolve to do that well in 2025. And if you have a mix of internal and external customers in your, let's say, product line, in your project or service, let's resolve to doing a bit better than just, let's say, dumping all requests from such customers in some kind of backlog that will prioritize itself and will just pull things out of it in the perfect sequence, but instead being more strategic about planning capacity in our project or service to make sure that each of these customers, which you should be able to name, receives some decent, adequate service that they expect. All right. There is perhaps a future episode or two that I should do in 2025 on perhaps approach to knowing your customers on fit for purpose framework, where I can actually expand these thoughts properly. And actually on the first one, being mindful of inventory and controlling WIP, perhaps it's also a big topic, just how do we choose to see our inventory in our processes, in our companies, and again, that could be a topic for a future like full-length episode to expand on. And I just like to I'm noticing Colin Turner from Austin, Texas, posted in the chat At last night, I showed my organization of 7 teams their combined whip. My resolution is to keep this up on our Monday meetings just for visibility at first and to normalize it. This is a fantastic New Year resolution, as just making whip a working process visible, making everyone aware how large it is, learning together as an organization, as a group of 7 teams, and even as each one of these teams individually, and even at an individual, at a team level, at an organizational level, how this whip changes over time, what are the key factors that make it go up and down, and how different levels of whip correlate with, let's say, our level of stress or burnout, our service delivery performance, or let's say timeliness of our projects or quality of our products. This is a great organizational learning exercise that will produce success in 2025 one way or another. Thank you very much, Colin, for this example. And now I want to talk about kind of the third key to success, and it sounds kind of very simple. Let's manage flow end to end. So again, from some early initial point of, let's say, having an idea or making the decision to start or promising something to a customer all the way to delivery. Folks, I would like to encourage everyone who may be like listening or watching this video at some point to move on and move up from a somewhat simplistic and of course not very productive, or let's say limited utility kind of pattern that's become very popular in recent decades, is that our model of a process is we just basically have a team and we give a team some kind of backlog of work, and they pull things out of the backlog, they do something with it, and they say they're done, and that's pretty much it. That basically everything between the two endpoints is encapsulated as some kind of a gray box that we call a team, and it just does everything we ask it to do. And if only we had a better team. So reality in a lot of enterprises is big and small, is that getting the work from start to finish, from we promise to here it is usually more like a social network. And yes, there may be a team or a group of teams that are dedicated almost 100% to this particular deliverable, let's say a product. But they often need to connect with other parts of the organization. There is some important expert that we need to ask for help at a difficult point. There may be a shared service. There may be another department that has to weigh in on, what our product looks like before we deliver it. And mapping this process out, there's, I think, one of the episodes that I did better than others in the previous year was number 4, how to map your process. You can look it up on this YouTube channel. And something interesting that I tried to reveal in that episode was every time we start mapping a process, no matter, like, let's say, Tom, show me pick some important deliverable that you make and explain me the process how you make it, right? And Tom manages a relatively small department in his company, and it turns out that the process is always multiple complex social knowledge discovery activities, and in each activity there's a different collaboration pattern, and there are sometimes very distant collaborators from other teams, other departments of the company, sometimes external vendors, external customers even, sometimes customers collaborate too. And it's pretty much, in my experience, from one company to another, we try to map the process end to end, and it invariably involves a lot of actors with different levels of commitment or attachment to the delivery process. So understanding it as an essentially organizational, networked kind of thing, and not and managing it accordingly, and not simplifying it to we'll just give it to the team and they will just figure it out and do everything. That is something I'd like to suggest as a new resolution for you and your company in the new year. All right. I've been talking for 26 minutes already, and this could be a good enough half episode to kick off the year 2025, kind of sorry, a nice and light topic for the very first episode, because people are just returning from let's say holidays, picking up speed at work in the new year. However, I should probably spend a few more minutes on to comment on something important that happened in the very first week of the year, and I'm talking about the news of Agile Alliance joining the Project Management Institute, PMI, that was announced in the first week of the year. And the first week of the year, there was a lot of discussion on various social media channels, particularly on LinkedIn, whether this deal is good. Did Agile Alliance sell out to PMI, or who should have bought whom? What does it mean for the future of project management? What does this mean to the future of Agile? What does it and so on and so forth. I would like to focus in my remarks on the needs of people who run companies, who run on managers who are responsible for and accountable for some portfolios, projects, products, services, people who do the work. And therefore, I do need to point out, this is something that just strikes me in all these discussions about the PMI-Agile Alliance deal, is that more than 90% of the commentary on this deal came from Agile trainers, coaches, and consultants. What this deal means to them, what it means to their professional identity. Some people are mildly optimistic, a lot of people are skeptical, some people, but really, who cares? If you have a business to run, and I guess this is kind of my number one point that I'd like to say about this, it hardly affects you. You still face the same questions at your company about your strategy, your customers, about why your customers choose your product, how to make them choose you more often, about your options and commitments, impact of AI on your business architecture, on your product architecture, must be on your mind. A new product or business architecture means perhaps developing new capabilities in your company, capabilities you may not have yet. Are you developing these capabilities? How you know they are developing, and so on. So there's a lot of things to think about as you try to deliver on your chosen strategy. And you must already be doing something to address all these challenges. And you can find solutions by thinking in your context, starting with outcomes, you will find something out. You may even pull from bodies of knowledge. You can even tap some consultants for help, right? So some of the knowledge may be external to your company right now, but you can bring people in, so now that knowledge is part of your company. But what is not a likely, what is an approach not likely to lead to success is to attach yourself once again to a methodological label, roll out some process framework X, eventually becoming disappointed, replacing it with framework Y, and then you enter the endless cycle of X and Y haven't worked here, so we need to try Z, and then every year it's something different, but nothing really changes. It's also worth saying that Agile is essentially, and it started as a backlash kind of movement. It was a backlash against perhaps overly structured and formal software engineering methods of the late 1990s. And Agile has made its point with lightweight, iterative development, guided by frequent feedback, probably very well. Sorry, by the year approximately 2010. And by 2015, it became quite broadly adopted and joined mainstream. And when a new backlash movement becomes mainstream, it's now a backlash against what exactly? All right, it's made its point, and it started its decline as a movement, right? It doesn't mean its ideas lost relevance, but it means it's not as important as a movement anymore. And the problems that your company faces, the problems you're already solving by thinking in your context and applying your talents, and sometimes seeking ideas from the outside and bringing some new people into your organization. These problems, you cannot solve them by joining a movement, right? You solve problems by actually applying yourself, by learning something in your organization, by expanding your knowledge, by doing what you do best. But you don't solve them by joining a movement. You may have felt pressured at some point in the last 5 to 15 years to join a movement, but 2015 started in its very first week with a very clear reminder that you don't have to join the movement. So that's kind of my ramblings about this PMI-Agile Alliance deal, which can of course generate a lot of debates and a lot of clicks on LinkedIn, but at the end of the day, as far as running your company, as far as running the projects, product lines, services that you are accountable for as a manager, as far as doing your professional work, it hardly changes anything. And what you must be doing already is more important, and some ideas that you can find on this channel, hopefully, and some of the keys to success in 2025 that I spoke about a bit earlier. That is perhaps more important. So what you actually do in your company is more important than let's say such news. So it doesn't really change much, if anything, for you going forward. So that's it for today. I just noticed there is another comment from Katya, my resolution for 2025 is to balance delivery of high value new features with smaller BAU, business as usual, requests and issues. I would also like to find a way to make these two sources of demand visible. All right, this is a fantastic resolution. Thank you, Katya, very much for contributing this. Yes, indeed, and this is what I said a bit. This kind of connects to what I said a bit earlier about really knowing your customers, and I appreciate you for perhaps explaining this point number two I was making earlier a bit better. So sometimes you have very strategic customers, such as those high value new features. Those customers crave those new features, and at the same time there's some business as usual work which perhaps has a different customer persona that you are helping. So these two streams of work have different, you handle them differently. They are subject to different fitness criteria. They require a different level of service, and they require some concurrent service. You cannot just put one of them on hold for several months and work on the other and then switch them back. It doesn't work like that. So figuring out a way how to balance them strategically, certain percentage allocation to each, making sure that each gets adequate level of service, and that all of this is visible in your company so that your entire organization, various teams that may be involved in either strategic or business as usual type of work, are aware of just how much of each of these types of work is there, how much is still upcoming, so how much is currently in progress, how well you're delivering against each, and what sort of decisions and trade-offs it takes. Learning collectively as an organization, sharing the knowledge also organizationally, is a fantastic resolution. Thank you so much for this. So, folks, this is it for this week. As expected, I spoke longer than a half episode, but I do want to make it kind of less than full length, 55 minutes. See you next Tuesday. I will pick a topic tomorrow and post an announcement tomorrow. And a bit later today, I'll annotate this live video, which turned out maybe a bit messy, but as usual. But with annotations, you will be able to jump to the point faster. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.